Ukraine's President Zelensky says he's had a very important conversation with President Trump, in which the two agreed to work towards increasing Ukraine's protection from aerial attack. The phone call follows the biggest Russian drone and missile attack of the war. Ukraine says Moscow fired 550 drones and 11 missiles overnight. Rescue workers say one person died and 26 were injured. Our senior international correspondent, Orla Guerin, has been to northeastern Ukraine, near Sumy and the Russian border, and seen Ukrainian troops in action against drone attacks. Her report begins with last night's bombardment of Kyiv, where almost every district of the city was affected.
A night of terror in a capital under attack. The drones kept coming in the darkest hours. The largest such attack since the start of the war. It came just hours after Vladimir Putin put down the phone following a call with Donald Trump. Civilians forced to shelter underground from this waking nightmare. The Kremlin's message to Ukraine written in the dawn skies. No ceasefire in sight here. And no respite for Ukrainian troops trying to stop the drones. Here with only heavy machine guns. An unequal fight. Well, they've just opened fire again. They've spotted another Shahid drone. And there is another unit we can hear that are also firing in the distance. And they're going to try and bring the drone down with a gun. It's a nightly battle for this territorial defence brigade in the Sumy region bordering Russia. Most drones targeting Kyiv fly through here, right over their heads. What's the feeling for you and for your team when you see the drones getting through?
Well, it's not very good. You feel a slight sadness, but to be honest, as you have seen, you don't have time for emotions. One comes in, and another can come right behind it. For more than a year already, every day is like Groundhog Day.
And everything that moves is a target. This bus, full of civilians, was ripped apart by a Russian drone in Sumy. 9 people were killed. Margarita Husakova was pulled from the wreckage, but lost 3 of her loved ones, her mother, her uncle and her sister.
I told my sister, don't come here, there are explosions. But she came anyway. She spent a month at my place. Everything was fine. But once we boarded that bus, that was it.
Margarita cannot forget how she last saw her sister, her broken body lying on the ground. One more family destroyed in President Putin's quest for victory. Orla Guerin, BBC News, Sumy, Ukraine.
Well, as we mentioned, President Zelensky has spoken to US President Trump on the phone today. Let's get the very latest from Paul Adams, who's in Ukraine's capital tonight. What is happening right now where you are, Paul?
Well, Jane, in the last hour or so, we have had more air activity. We could see anti-aircraft fire in the distance. We could hear some distant explosions. We don't know if we're in for another night like we had last night. Last night was one of the worst in the capital in recent months, certainly in terms of the sheer numbers of drones that flew in wave after wave throughout the night. All of this, of course, adds to President Zelensky's argument that this country needs more help in defending its skies. And that help seemed to be in jeopardy earlier this week when news came that the United States was suspending some of its arms deliveries to Ukraine. Now, as you say, President Zelensky and Donald Trump have spoken today. And after that meeting, President Zelensky said it had been an important and fruitful meeting, and that the two leaders had discussed ways to improve Ukraine's air defenses. We don't know exactly what that means. Possibly more Patriot air defense missiles from the United States, possibly help for Ukraine in finding them elsewhere. In the meantime, Ukraine's European allies are set to discuss the so-called coalition of the willing in the margins of an Anglo-French summit next week. They will be discussing all sorts of ways of bolstering Ukraine's defences. But of course, that coalition of the willing can only happen if and when there is a ceasefire on the ground here in Ukraine. And at the moment, all negotiations about a ceasefire seem to have come to a dead end.